While Randy Orton is one of the biggest WWE stars, over the years many have come forward about his behavioral issues backstage. This is Wrestling Up, and here are 10 wild Randy Orton stories. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Up and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Orton has lived through many eras in wrestling. Early on, the locker room culture in WWE was such that tenured stars were expected to dominate in the ring and backstage, with him at times taking liberties with talent. On YouTube, former WWE star Amy Weber revealed Orton and Edge harassed her while they were traveling. She said she went to the men's locker room to get ibuprofen for her broken tailbone, but the two stars were not happy to see her there. She said that she was sleeping on her seat on a flight when Orton came from behind and slammed her chair. We were all sleeping. Randy decided to come up behind my chair and he slammed into it like a linebacker so hard that I landed on the floor of the airplane. And then he said to me, "You're gonna learn." She would also be woken up having a drink thrown in her face while she was asleep by Edge. Weber revealed she did not feel safe in WWE after getting harassed, and that she could not understand why this was happening. Early in his career, when Randy was in Evolution and faced the Dudley Boys while teaming with Batista, the Dudleys disliked the faction. They felt that they were controlling the locker room and everything that happened, and took the opportunity when they faced them to take out some of their dislike. Batista's tricep injury was so bad WWE almost replaced him in the faction with Mark Jindrak, while Orton's injury saw him miss 4 months of action. On Busted Open Radio, Bubba said this about seeing Orton years later: "The very first day we saw each other in 2015, when me and Devon had returned to the WWE, we instantly shook hands, hugged, sat down and talked for 5 minutes and realized that we had both matured. We both admitted that we overreacted to the situation." Former WWE commentator Jim Ross revealed Vince McMahon had doubts surrounding Orton prior to signing him in 2000. He was somewhat of a controversial hire. Vince was the problem child that went to military school, and Randy was the problem child that went to the Marines and got discharged. Big time Randy's past was a problem for Vince, but it's one of those deals where I said, "Vince, you got a second chance, so why not this kid? He's only a third generation talent, and his father and his grandfather were outstanding in-ring guys." It's wild to think that there was a chance Orton would not be hired by WWE, with him still there day in and day out as a top level talent. Randy Orton went to KUPD, a radio station in Phoenix, where he put down The Rock and Mark Henry, with an unfortunate victim of his words being Kelly Kelly. He said he could name 10 people who had slept with Kelly in the WWE locker room. Still, he did apologize, saying, "Yesterday I put my foot in my mouth, and I need to try my best to make it right. I owe Kelly an apology. The fact that she has dated a few guys I worked with doesn't make her a bad person, and is no one's business. I got caught up in a live radio interview and brought Kelly's personal life into it. It was uncalled for. Kelly, I hope one day you can forgive me. I do, however, understand if that doesn't happen. Please, everyone, trash talk me all you want, but please drop this topic out of respect for Barb." When Legacy was formed, it was one of Randy Orton's greatest runs, with Cody Rhodes and Ted Dibiase Jr. by his side. As it turns out, Randy disliked Dibiase from the beginning. He said Orton had told him when they had first met that he didn't like him. The Viper changed his mind later on after working with him. Still, things went badly when Ted was supposed to turn face and confront Orton. Instead, Rhodes and Dibiase stayed heel, with Orton turning face. Dibiase took on his father's gimmick, and after a couple more years left wrestling, with him apparently unhappy with his treatment from WWE and Orton. Former WWE writer Corey Bauer revealed Randy Orton exposed himself to new writers as an initiation. For every new writer that would show up, he comes in the room, puts his hand down his pants, pulls out his touches himself, then says, "I'm Randy Orton, shake my hand." "Oh, you don't want to shake my hand? You're big leaguing me? That's messed up, man. Should I tell Vince and Steph you won't shake Randy Orton's hand?" Bauer added Orton did not harass him on his first day because Stephanie was present in the room at the time. Kevin Eck also confirmed the story, saying, "I don't have any comment on the recent stories about Orton's backstage behavior, other than to say that I always avoided shaking hands with him during my time on the WWE creative team." Mr. Kennedy commented on his weird behavior too. "I remember my boots were sitting there and he kept dipping his into my boot. I was like, what are you doing? He used to do stuff like this, and we'd be riding in the car and I'd be like, Randy, there's no one else around to find that funny." Even Roman Reigns had issues with Randy Orton. WWE had huge plans for Reigns after the Shield split. Following the breakup, while Seth and Dean were feuding, Roman had a feud of his own against Randy Orton. Though the matches between the two live events garnered no fan interest, Reigns was not happy backstage and revealed Orton was taking control of the match, with his slow style to ensure Roman didn't look like a big star. Roman apparently believed Orton was hurting his push, and the two talked about it. They settled it backstage and thankfully managed to move on as Orton gave Reigns more control. In what is possibly the most notorious story about Randy, former WWE Women's star Rochelle Owen revealed Orton vandalized her belongings using tanning oil and baby lotion, saying she would not put it past Orton to defecate in her bag. She was asked to join WWE and was not familiar with all these superstars. When she asked Orton whether he was from Canada, Randy stormed off, saying he hated Canada and her. As she said, near the end of the day I was doing a pre-tape with Mr. Bischoff, and it took us about an hour or two. Then I went back to the changing room and all of my belongings, my nice belongings, had been destroyed by Randy Orton, who had snuck into the female changing room. The reason Randy did what he did had nothing to do with the competition. His behavior had everything to do with how pathetic this person is, how psycho he is. Maybe mama wasn't nice to him when he was a little boy, or dropped him on his head. He had some real issues with beautiful women. I don't know what they are, but he definitely does. She said Randy later had issues when she was friends with Mark Jindrak, who was Orton's best friend. In fact, Randy wouldn't even talk to Mark Jindrak, the reflection of perfection, for a while because of that. He's an animal. He's an absolute animal. What kind of man acts like that when he likes a beautiful woman? This guy is just absolutely out to lunch. And these were some wild Randy Orton stories. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.